Hello and welcome. I'm Al Barrows, and this is UFO Disclosure, the podcast that's meant to show an average person's reaction to all the UAP, UFO news from everywhere and anywhere. So, July the 30th was National Whistleblower Day. That begs the question, where is David Grusch? Where is he now? Remember last year he was all over social media? Remember this iconic interview where David Grusch said, quote, "I talk to the highest of the high people you could possibly talk to if you could catch my drift? The phenomena is real. It's been going on for thousands of years."
Are we alone? Well, the answer is we're not alone. And I know that with 100% certainty, which as an intel officer, you never say 100%, but all things pointed towards, based on the people I talked to, like Harry Reid, and I use him as an example, but I talked to the highest of the high people you could possibly talk to, if you catch my drift. So unless all of them are lying and they're covering up something else, which I don't even know what it would be at this point, because the phenomenon is real. It's been going on for thousands of years. People have been seeing strange things, and not everybody's mass hallucinating.
So he clearly said there that he talked to the highest of the high and that the phenomenon is real. Here's another clip of Ross Coulthart interviewing him, where he clearly admits that we have not only ET craft, but bodies as well.
So you've spoken to people with direct knowledge
Yes,
of a secret legacy UFO program.
correct.
You're saying that the United States government has retrieved alien technology.
Yes, the assessment was non-human, presumably extraterrestrial, but we do have retrieved non-human material and craft that we have in our possession.
Do we have alien bodies?
We do.
So we do have craft and bodies, according to Grusch. So, of course, after statements like that, everyone's wondering what happened to Grusch? Where is Grusch now? I found this post on X, and it's by Metamaterial at Meta Studios Logic. David Grusch sues Sheriff's Office over records release. And there's a quote here that says, Grusch says in a $2.5 million lawsuit filed July the 16th in London Circuit Court that a sheriff's office employee improperly released highly sensitive personal information about his medical history. And the London Times Mirror wrote an article about Grusch's current lawsuit, and it's entitled UFO Whistleblower Sues Sheriff's Office Over Records Release. And this article is by Evan Goodnow. And there's a shot here with the article of David Grusch testifying last year before a House Oversight and Accountability subcommittee last year, Wednesday, July the 26th, 2023, on Capitol Hill in Washington. So David Grusch is suing the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office, Mike Chapman, and an unidentified Sheriff's Office employee for releasing personal information about him. The plaintiff, retired Major David C. Grusch, says in a $2.5 million lawsuit, okay, so it's not a small lawsuit, he filed it on July the 16th in the Loudoun Circuit Court, that a sheriff's office employee improperly released, quote, highly sensitive personal information, end quote, about his medical history in response to a Freedom of Information Act request on July the 30th, 2023. The employee is not really identified, just simply identified as Jane Doe. In an email to the Times Mirror, Sheriff's Office spokesman Thomas A. Julia said the agency acted in accordance with the law in response to the reference FOIA or FOIA and disagrees with the allegations filed. Ken Klippenstein, then a reporter for The Intercept, filed the records request 4 days after Grusch testified before the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Grusch told the committee that several current and former members of the intelligence community and military provided him with, quote, photography, official documentation, and classified oral testimony about the program, according to a transcript of his remarks. Grusch said that he filed a whistleblower complaint with the U.S. Office of the Intelligence Community Inspector General and suffered retaliation for his actions. A sheriff's office employee provided Klippenstein, the investigative reporter in this case, with an incident report detailing why a magistrate in October of 2018 issued an emergency custody order to detain Grusch involuntarily at Innova's London Adult Medical Psychiatric Services Program for a psychiatric evaluation, according to the lawsuit. An ECO allows people deemed by a magistrate to be a danger to themselves or others to be held for up to 8 hours for an evaluation. A mental health worker who evaluated Grusch sought a temporary detention order for him, but Grusch was not committed and was consequently released, according to the suit. A TDO allows a person deemed a danger to themselves or others to be held up to 72 hours before a civil commitment hearing. Reporters and court documents related to an, quote, involuntary admission, end quote, are excluded from being released under the Virginia FOIA, according to the suit. Quote, the defendants had no authority to exercise discretion when releasing information relating to plaintiff's involuntary admission records, reports, and or documents, end quote. The suit says, quote, the disclosure to Klippenstein was prohibited by law, end quote. I guess that's the basis of Grusch's lawsuit. Now, The Intercept, the online magazine or the online investigative news site, published an article on August the 9th, 2023, that included a redacted version of the incident report. It said Grusch's wife called the sheriff's office to report that he was drunk and experiencing a mental health crisis in their home. The couple sold the home in 2019, according to the county property records. The article said that security clearances, which Grusch had, are subject to, quote, strict requirements, end quote, and questioned why Grusch was allowed to keep his security clearance after the 2018 incident. The lawsuit says the article caused Grusch to suffer personally and professionally. And here's the headline from that Intercept article from last year. The title reads, UFO whistleblower kept security clearance after psychiatric detention. And that article was by Ken Klippenstein, and it was written August the 9th, 2023. And the subtitle reads, the star witness of Congress's UFO hearings, David Grusch, retained his clearance despite alleged substance abuse issues, FOIA documents reveal. So I think Ken Klippenstein was sort of hitting below the belt and unjustifiably revealing Grusch's medical records. And we've all been in dark places. That doesn't take away from Grusch's testimony. What is happening with Grusch? Last year, he was the star of the UAP hearings. Here's David Grusch, the star of the UAP hearings last year, taking an oath with Graves and David Fravor. And there he specifically said that U.S. recovered non-human biologics, quote, end quote, from UFO crash sites, and that congressional UAP hearing was held July the 27th of last year, 2023. So everyone's wondering, where is Grusch? What's happening with the UAP hearings? Here's a clip of Matthew Pines talking about how Congress doesn't trust the Pentagon. I got this on Reddit, and it's Matthew Pine saying that the Senate and Congress overall doesn't trust the Pentagon or AARO on the UAP issue, because a lot of the UAP records that exist haven't been declassified.
And Senator Schumer went to the Senate floor after their bill basically got gutted, and they were not happy. And they gave a scripted colloquy on the Senate floor, like an 8-minute speech where they had written together, each had parts. And they basically said, we're not giving up on this. In interest of transparency and accountability, we're going to push for, this UAP Disclosure Act in the future. And that's what they did. They came back, and after all this conversation, they said, no, we're going to double down. And they didn't trust the AARO, the office inside the Pentagon, that had been set up nominally to kind of investigate this stuff, but has basically been essentially doing a cover job, right? Which is what you would expect, right? And the Senate's not buying it. And so they're like, and the AARO tried to basically kill this bill. Specifically, they went through and they tried to they gave the Defense Department the ability to kind of comment on the draft legislation. And actually just today came out like a version of the bill where they had, the Pentagon was like, red line out all of references to technologies of unknown origin, biological materials, and then give the role that the Senate wanted to give to this independent review board. They wanted to give that role to AARO itself. So all the witnesses or powers, it's like, oh, you should just give it to this group inside the Pentagon to investigate the Pentagon, right? And so the Senate's not buying it, right? The Senate's doubling down on the definitions, and they specifically say that this legislation is necessary because credible evidence indicates that UAP records exist that have not been subject to mandatory declassification as a result of an overbroad interpretation of the Atomic Energy Act of 1954. So that's basically been the argument, is that we've been compartmenting these programs, in that apparatus of secrecy since the Manhattan Project. So we're in this position now where coming into the summer, there's going to be some major things happening. So the objective, essentially, of the things that are going to happen the rest of this year is to get as close to the full package that's in the UAPDA passed, right? So that the next president will essentially preside over the nominations and then review the declassification and disclosure determinations of the review board. Only the president will have essentially the final veto, right, over those determinations. The review board has to provide like a UAP disclosure campaign plan. And there's all these restrictions on like what the agencies, if they say that we don't want this to be declassified, there have to be like specific reasons published. So there's a lot of stakes coming on like this bill that's going to be now reintroduced as part of the FY25 NDAA, and that will likely come to a similar sort of contention in conference committee later this year, probably November, December, where behind closed doors will be a debate about how much of this package will actually make it into law. Because the NDA is one of those bills that always gets passed, right? And so this is the fight that's happening now. And so there's going to be a wave of public discourse that's going to start next month in August that is designed to generate such momentum to push the UAPDA across the line. So in particular, what's going to start this will be a book that's coming out by a gentleman named Lou Elizondo, who was kind of the original guy, started this all in 2017, helped get those videos out to the New York Times. He was a guy who he's a career, absolute boss inside the Pentagon. He was a member of what's called the Intelligence Support Activity, kind of like Delta Force, but would go behind enemy lines to like scout things out. He counterintelligence officer, counterterrorism officer, did a bunch of stuff, and it was tapped basically to run the sort of this UFO program inside the Pentagon in 2008. And so he's coming up with this tell-all book, basically called Imminent, in August. Then there's going to be 2 documentaries coming out with people that no one's heard of yet that are going to make pretty eye-opening claims, and that those people will have the credentials to back those claims up.
Can you say what those claims are?
I mean, basically that everything David Grusch said in testimony is true.
So
right?
That they've retrieved craft.
Yes.
And that they've found like biological beings.
Essentially what the UAP says, which is that there are these legacy programs to retrieve and exploit, reverse engineer technologies of unknown origin and biological materials. Those programs exist. Like the Senate legislation is premised on those programs existing. The purpose is to investigate those programs and to force the information and records and materials that they hold into a more formal and legitimate and accountable process, and then to disclose certain elements of those programs to the public. I think they want to do it.
And is there anything new that like Grusch didn't say that he's going to reveal?
So this is all about, again, Grusch. I don't think the job is to say anything new. It's to get more senior people to say basically the same thing.
Okay, so take it more seriously.
So David Grusch was sort of the first door opener to establish and into the discourse this concept of retrieved craft and biological materials. That was like the what? And you saw the people in Congress being like, what are you talking about? And then the Senate comes out with this bill that says biological materials, technologies of unknown origin, defines legacy programs. It ensures that nobody that's on this review board can be associated with the legacy programs.
What do you think biological materials means?
Bodies of non-human entities.
Aliens.
I don't know what you mean by aliens, but a biological creature
That didn't.
of a morphology that we don't recognize as being associated with any sort of phylogenetic tree.
It came from another planet.
Or has it been here forever?
There's other hypotheses.
Yes.
Okay, so I got this from r/UFOs, BMFALBO, and that was Matthew Pines. I think he was very eloquent. He mentioned several things there, including Lou Elizondo's upcoming book, Imminent, and he referred to Grusch as sort of like breaking the ice and coining a lot of these terms that we have now: biologics, non-human intelligence, UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon, etc. But he also said that now the next move is to have higher ups do the same thing to keep the ball rolling. So what is next? I found this on X from Ask a Poll, and it's a quote from Representative Anna Paulina Luna, and I quote, "We are for sure doing," end quote, "UFO hearing this fall, led by new female chair." And there's a picture of Anna Paulina there herself being interviewed by the reporter, Mr. Laszlo.
We're gonna see a UAP.
Yeah, actually, we were supposed to do it before August recess, but obviously with things that have developed, so we'll hopefully get it on books for September, October, but we're for sure doing one. Yeah. It'll be under oversight, and we have a different chairman that will be leading it up, but it'll be good.
Not Rothman this time?
No, not Gotham this time.
Why not?
Just because of the different committees for timing.
Will it be one of you all from the UAP caucus?
We will be there, but we'll have a chairwoman.
A chairwoman?
That's all your hints for now.
All right. Appreciate you.
So that was Representative Anna Paulina Luna being interviewed quickly while she walks down the stairs on the House side of the U.S. Capitol, and she was talking to Matt Laszlo. And she did say that there would be another UAP hearing, September or October, on oversight, and that the new chair would be a woman. And could it be Representative Nancy Mace? Could she be the next person to chair the next UAP hearing? Okay, so I got this from r/UFOs, Tommy Shelby, PFB. Upcoming fall House UFO hearing will be led by Representative Nancy Mace, who led the most important line of questioning at the David Grusch hearing, which resulted in the major testifying under oath to the American public that the U.S. military is in possession of non-human /alien tech and biologics, as he called them. And I have a clip here of that scene last year at the UAP hearing. So here's Grusch being questioned by Representative Nancy Mace at last year's UAP hearing.
You've stated that the government is in possession of potentially non-human spacecraft. Based on your experience and extensive conversations with experts, do you believe our government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials?
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
Okay, I can't ask when you think this occurred. If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still in the program.
And was this documentary evidence, this video, photos, eyewitness? Like, how would that be determined?
The specific documentation I would have to talk to you in a skiff about.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that was a historic moment there. David Grusch was being interviewed by Representative Nancy Mace. She's fully prepared now. Wording, biologics was used for the first time there by David Grusch, and he had a lot of revelations there. He confirmed before Congress that we are in possession of not only craft, but biologics. And by that, what could that possibly mean other than ET bodies? And I'm sure a lot of you are hungry for more. Luna is promising more UAP hearings in September or October. Let's see if they come to fruition. I certainly hope so, because we've all been waiting patiently for more. Thank you. My name is Al Barrows, and this has been UFO Disclosure with a very short update on what's going on with Grusch. Thank you for listening to my podcast.